Hi everyone, it's Mick Labinskas here from this meeting's been recorded trap. I just fell into that one. It's Mick Labinskas from author of She's Building a Robot, and I'm joined by Tara, who's in Melbourne. And Tara, thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Tara, can you tell us a bit about what you do?
Yes, I'm a biotechnology manufacturing assistant at the moment at CSL, so it's quite topical. We are making 2 vaccine candidates for COVID at the moment.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I'd love to hear a bit more of that, but I want to go back first of all. How did you first get into science?
Well, quite specifically my current role in a very convoluted way, but I probably got into science not realizing it when I was a kid. I was very sporty, so I really wanted to be healthy and fit all the time.
Okay.
And so I started wanting to know how my body works and what's best for it, not realizing that I was conducting an experiment as I go about what makes me tick best. And yeah, and then through the more normal channels of school, I did what was special science at our school.
Okay.
And ended up working in accounting and finance. So not very
Okay.
sciencey, but very math driven. And then I finally went to uni as a mature age student, did my science degree, and now work more traditionally in what's understood to be STEM, I guess.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And when you said special, well, so were you self-motivated based on your sport? I think that's a really good, interesting thing that, what's that first motivation that drives you into it? Or did somebody say, hey, you love sport so much, why don't you actually understand your body? Was there anyone else involved? I always look for, was there a nudge from someone who sort of gave you a science kit or gave you a book or nudged you, or was it quite self-motivated?
Yeah, not to give myself too much credit, but I remember it being very internal.
Okay.
I just wanted to do really well in my sport. So how do I do that?
Okay.
Through not just practice?
Yeah, interesting. And can you tell me which sport it was?
Netball.
Netball.
I did
Fantastic.
athletics and everything at school basically, but netball was my love. Yeah.
Wow. Do you remember one of the experiments you ran on yourself with food and in nutrition?
I've basically tried every diet under the sun just to see
Okay.
how it works.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. There's so
Wow.
many to go through. I wouldn't dare list
No,
them.
I understand. There's so many
Yeah.
different ways. Is there any you still keep from today? Is there any of those diets that the things you tried that really stuck and formed a habit?
Yeah, definitely. Lots of research shows that across all different species, the thing that really drives our hunger and our satiation and all that is protein. So I make sure I get my protein right first and then take care of everything else from that. And not to say I eat a lot of protein, but just know what I need.
Yeah, wow. Okay, so that's quite a journey back from that sport into special science. And you mentioned special science, but a lot of people may not know what that means. Is that like additional classes, like really focused around science, or?
Our school just ran a test that you sat in year 7, and if you did all right in it, you basically just did a year ahead of yourself so that you were more prepared, I guess, by the end.
Yeah.
It was just called special science. I don't know what the equivalent today would be. Sorry.
Right. Yeah, no, I understand. And I'm just curious about the gender balance back then. Was science fairly, do you remember it to be fairly even, or some of the women I've interviewed have sort of said that their science or that the STEM subjects they studied were mostly male, but what was your circumstance like?
I think given the testing, it was mainly 50-50 until year 10. And then in year 11 and 12 is when you start to see that kind of divergence. There was definitely a lot of women in the biology side of things, but in maths and physics, that was male dominated.
Wow, okay. Why do you think it drops off at year 11 and 12? So that's when you're about 17 and 18, right? The last few years of school, yeah.
I was in Western Australia, so 16 and 17, but yeah. Without sounding terribly uninsightful, I don't know, because we had very quirky science teachers, and there definitely wasn't any overt direction based on what you were gender-wise from them. So I'm not sure, sorry.
Yeah, no, me neither. Just curious about
Yeah.
whether that might have been anything driving it. And tell us a bit what I'm sure that you can't tell us everything about what you're currently working on, but
Mhm.
like, can you tell us like the kind of things you do in your job now,
Yeah,
and what are the bits you love and what are the bits you find challenging?
sure. I suppose a basic overview of what we do is we give non-human cells human genes and they make the
Hmm.
protein for us, and then we purify it, and that's the medicine that people may or may not take.
Okay.
And so my job is in the upstream team, and we're all about growing those cells in big vats, basically. So a 2,000 litre bioreactor with billions and trillions of cells growing it, making a protein that eventually will become medicine of some kind.
Wow.
Um, yeah. And I suppose for many people, that's still kind of science fiction-y. Like, it's still
Yeah.
exciting saying, oh, yeah, we give a human gene to another cell and they just make something for us.
Yeah.
And like both the science in how you do that and then the production side of things, which starts to like converge on engineering as much as it does like biological science, is really, really
Yeah.
interesting. Um, and I suppose
Mm.
the hardest part is that it's biology and it can be totally unpredictable. So we really
Mm.
focus on making a process that guarantees an outcome rather than looking at an outcome and figuring out how to get to that differently each time.
Okay.
So yeah.
Do you feel like there's the pace of discovery is getting faster and faster in your line of work?
Um, it could do. By the time it comes to us, though, we're like later on in the R&D, so we don't see as
Okay.
much, perhaps, of that fast-paced discovery.
Okay.
Uh, but like generally in the literature, definitely, like there seems
Yeah.
to be a new drug target nearly every week or potential
Okay.
treatment for something. Yeah.
Yeah. And it has it, and I guess you mentioned it's kind of like feels like science fiction. It sounds amazing being able to go and do that. Do you have any sense about where it's heading? Like, is there any big, amazing things that are just on the verge in terms of your line, the upstream line? Is there any elements that are coming soon which are like super interesting to really change the game that you're curious about?
Yeah, I think so. Not so much in the medicine space, but in biofuels. If we ever can figure that out, like
Hmm.
basically what we're trying to do is take something which either requires digging up the ground to find or
Yeah.
going into the ocean and using like high temperature, high pressure chemical synthesis with like environmentally damaging outcomes.
Yeah.
Whereas perhaps we can just teach a cell to operate at 37 degrees in normal atmosphere under normal pressure to do the same thing. Like
Wow.
the potential to make product that currently is so resource intensive, if we can figure out to do it biologically, would be huge in so many
Mm.
different areas.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah. It's interesting the convergence and interplay between all the different areas. You're in medicine, but there's a new technology could influence so many different areas, and
Yeah.
I agree. But sustainability and health, they're two of the most important things, and actually sustainability comes back to health at the end of the day, doesn't it? So,
Yeah.
yeah, very interesting. And for any young girls watching who might be thinking about a life in science, do you have any ideas about where they might like if they maybe not in this a special science class or maybe don't
Mm.
have the good opportunities and role models? Do you have any thoughts, or have you seen anything in your world that might be either encouraging advice or places for them to start?
Yeah, definitely. I think the first thing would be is don't box science into a person in a lab coat in a lab. Like
Mm,
science is very much the process of you have an idea, you test it, and then you have to rethink that whole idea.
mm-hmm,
So um, you could do that in nearly every field you're in if you want to do that
mm,
job well. But also, I can't remember the exact statistic, but something like 65% of students now have a job that doesn't even exist. So,
mm,
like, whatever you find you enjoy, like,
yeah,
pursue it and pursue it with like intent, because, 10 years down the track, that could be the leading scientific field. You just have no idea.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's great. And do you have a favorite book or podcast that you been enjoying at the moment around science, or a magazine, or?
I do. I listen to Peter Attia. I don't know. That's like very health and medical heavy.
Okay.
If someone's really into that, they'll get a lot of science juice out of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. That's great. I can get the spelling and a link maybe from you after, and I'll post it in the notes. But
Yeah.
Tara, thank you so much for sharing your story. Thank you for your hard work. I really hope that we can get to a good outcome soon. I don't know when people are going to be watching this video, but it's September 2020, and we've come off 6 months of COVID-19, and maybe in the future people watch this and wonder what we're talking about when it's all been solved. Because
Yeah, hopefully.
Tara's team's been able to make something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, fingers crossed. But look,
Indeed.
again, thank you very much for sharing, and really for the readers of She's Building a Robot, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Cool. Thank you.